Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and as you can see, David is not here today, and that's because he is joined by our Solo Practice Accelerator cohort. They are on day 2 of the Solo Practice Accelerator, and they're having fun together. So it's just us today. As you know, and if you're familiar with this space, it takes me about a minute to see your comments, to see your questions. We encourage your participation. So post the comment, post the question you have for me today, and let's see if we can get to it today as well. This is a space where today, me, usually us, answer your comments, your questions about how to grow and how to create success for your consulting practice. And with that, we have a question today that was a leftover from last week. Rusty, you submitted a question, and I believe, Jaren, you have it ready for us to go over. So, Rusty, if you're here, let me know, right? Hopefully you're here today to interact with your questions. So you said, I have a new opportunity, but a challenge. Until recently, they worked with an 83-year-old consultant who charged a flat monthly retainer based on rates from 20 years ago. The project includes an audit, monthly check-ins, access to you for advice for 2 trainings, and availability for special projects on a per diem basis. Should I offer a flat retainer or split the cost out by the work? Okay, Rusty. So I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, as you transitioned, and as I understand, it was a little bit difficult to follow in your question, but my hypothesis is that you received this client or you inherited this client with a project that was already either fully scoped or semi-scoped from this other consultant. So first question I have for you is whether you conducted some sort of context discussion at all, whether you sat down with the folks that are now looking to be your client or are already your client, and you said, okay, talk to me about the project in general, right? And it's a legitimate, very legitimate discussion to have, even if you're very familiar with the work and very familiar with the context. Why? It allows you to hear in their own words, what's the value, what's the desired outcome that they're looking for in the context of the work that you're doing. What are really the things they see as risks and concerns going forward? And how do they know you're making progress, right? You want to align to all of those things, even where you have experience, even where you know them, even when you have an indication. And the experience and where you know them, what gets you is from going into a conversation completely blind, whereas when you don't know a prospect or when you're not familiar with the situation, to going into the conversation with a lot of familiarity, right? And maybe you don't need an hour or an hour and a half for a context discussion. Maybe you just need 20, 25 minutes to make sure you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. But it's helpful always, especially as you're inheriting a client from somebody else, to hear it from them. In that conversation, if you haven't had it already, and if you can queue it up, I would encourage you to ask about parameters, as you normally would in a context discussion. What's their budget? How do they think about money? How do they actually think about structure? That's one consideration for you as you think about fees. The other consideration is how good of an estimate you have of the work that goes into delivering all the pieces you describe in your question. If you have a pretty good estimate of the work that goes into delivering all your pieces, then you can actually set it up in either blocks or as a whole project basis, which is preferable than a per diem always, right? We want you to be always in a defined container. That requires knowledge of how much it's actually going to take to deliver. So as you're transitioning fees, as you're transitioning scope, think of your fees relative to your knowledge of what it would take to deliver, and explore with your clients what's their appetite for investment, which we always encourage you doing. So go back, if you can, to your client, and if not, set it up as modularly as you can so you can get either approval or consent on a chunk by chunk basis. If you see there's going to be a transition in fee levels between the old legacy consultant, let's call it, and you, make it explicit, right? Let it not be a last minute surprise or a shocker when your client receives an invoice. All right, Rusty, if you're here, let me know. I don't see any comments coming in, so hopefully you guys are here. Hopefully you can see it. It will be helpful for me to see whether that was helpful or not for you. And if nothing else, Jaren, why don't you share the second question that also came in, and we can address that in the meantime. All right, this question from Jamie. Jamie says, in our CRM, which is Pipedrive, okay, we're very familiar with Pipedrive, we can set up automated outreaches. Yes, you can. It's set up for one contact owner. In our firm, we have multiple owners, and so people are reluctant to use the automated function. The drawback is that we're not always reaching out on time, or sometimes there are multiple outreaches. How do we resolve this? All right. Thank you, Jamie, for your question. So that you all know what Jamie's talking about, a firm context, right? So multiple folks are interacting with a CRM. This is a setup we typically see in boutiques. And the Pipedrive requires you to have somebody, right? If one person interacts with a contact, then somebody else may do it. If you do it automated, that somebody else may actually do a contact at the same time. So how do you make it so that you either don't overwhelm the person or don't go radio silent, which seems to be the two cases that Alex is describing? So how do you manage that? Define within your firm who is the primary contact for that individual. So for every contact that you have in Pipedrive, decide who's going to be the owner or the primary contact. That is the single source of truth, right? Everyone in your firm can actually speak to your contact that is in Pipedrive, but not without coordinating first with a contact owner. So it would work like this. Say David and I both have the same contact in Pipedrive, but in this case, David is the owner. So if I wanted to reach, because I'm going to a conference and I know I'm going to meet that person at the conference, I will tell David, hey, I'm going to see this person at the conference. Or I want to send an automated contact through Pipedrive. Is that okay, David? Then David will tell me yes or no, and I will proceed either way, right? With a yes, I will go ahead, and with a no, I would do nothing. That's the way you would set it up in Pipedrive, and you would do it that way. You would assign a contact owner for every single contact, be methodical about it, and then be methodical about checking with the contact owner every time you have an opportunity. That's how you do it. It works beautifully. That's how firms keep their network warm and also use that Pipedrive automatic outreach functionality when needed. All right. Hello, Aaron. Hello, John. Hello, Susanna. Susanna, you're saying you have a number of contractors who do training and coaching for you. Scheduling them is inefficient, and it takes multiple emails to land on dates and times that work. How do you handle scheduling with contractors in this way? Ooh, interesting question. And it's also a challenge we often see with folks who leverage contractors, which, you know, if you know us, it's a preferred method for added capacity for firms. So good for you, Susanna, right? So one way to partially address this problem, it doesn't solve it completely, is to have your contractors, particularly those that you leverage regularly, keep some sort of availability schedule on the ready for you, right? So if you have folks who say work or know their schedule ahead, or want to make a calendar where you see blocks of windows are either busy or available that you can quickly check against, or want to give you visibility for months ahead of time. Say April through June, I am not available, but for now I am available July through December, right? Or I have 50% availability July through December for now. Have them create or put them on a platform where they can permanently update some sort of availability that is preliminary and that you can check against as a pre-check to definitely booking folks or definitely kind of confirming appointments or confirming calendar calendars and seeing whether you can actually schedule or not schedule or assign them to a project or not. So you wouldn't commit to them right away. They also wouldn't confirm with you right away, but you go in progressive stages, right? Your first pass, you take a swipe, you see, okay, in a general direction, it seems these 3 folks could be available to work in this project. Then you go ahead and you reach out to those 3 folks. If none of them are available or they don't have the skills you need, then you go the second, more laborious route of reaching out to folks individually and so on and so forth. But your first pass should be really low labor intensity. Okay, Susana, let me know if that helps. Hey, hi, Tony. Okay, you're saying when a client won't do a low cost 6K fast assessment and wants to bill you hourly with no retainer commitment, what do? They're open to profit sharing agreements with hourly rate. Okay, Tony, clarify something for me. Is this a client or is this a contractor? So are you billing the client or are they the ones who are asking you to do a profit sharing agreement with them, meaning you are being asked to invest in their success, or the other way around? So clarify that for me, right? So yeah, exactly. People can share their calendars without telling you what's inside them. Okay, so there's a way to share calendars and they don't have to be live, where you can simply see available or not available, or people can send a note, right? And saying available during this time windows, not available within this time windows. However you want to implement it, that works for folks. And I'm going back to Susana's questions and the comments in the chat where there's a question of whether people like sharing calendars or not. However you want to implement it, people don't have to disclose their personal information or information they otherwise don't feel comfortable disclosing. But there needs to be a little bit of a compromise in a way of dynamically sharing how often they are available or when they are available if they want to work with you, right? Or whether that's at the end of every week sending you a summary of their availability, or however that gets implemented, it's for them to figure out, so long as it works for you, Susana. Okay. Yes, their recording gets shared. Okay, Tony, thank you for clarifying. You don't have to agree to profit share if you don't want to. And you also don't have to agree to bill hourly if that's not your model, right? You can say, look, we work on value-based fees. Let's talk about it some more. And there's advantages to that for your client. So make sure that you explain what goes into your client and how your client benefits about when you do value-based fees and when you do a fixed fee for a project instead of hourly, how that actually benefits your client. All right. Yes, Rusty, we answered your question first. You can go back to the recording and send us a note if that didn't end. With that, we're at the end of the 15 minutes, believe it or not. So thank you for joining us. We'll address any questions that didn't get answered this week in next week's LinkedIn Live, and David will be back. So a couple of suggestions for you. Add Monday Live to your calendar. And Jaren, thank you. Thank you for getting ahead. davidafields.com/Monday Live. It will bring you to this space, right? So if you add it to your calendar as a permanent reminder, 12:15 Eastern, it will bring you to whichever link LinkedIn assigns to us for that week. And the second reminder is, if you haven't subscribed yet to the weekly articles subscribe, davidafields.com/subscribe. They're filled with practical, tactical tidbits. And you also get a lot of richness from the comments and from the discussion that happens in the comments and the back and forth. So those are the two encouragements for this week. Thank you for joining us. Consulting is not about us. It's about our clients. It's about creating profitability, creating value, creating joy for them, and creating success for them, and through them in creating all of those things for us. So think about them as you're working for you and for your firm, and join us next week. Thank you. Bye.